Hey there, this is Workbench with Workbench Quagmire. Welcome back to our Free Code Camp Python certification series, where we're going to attempt to do the Python certification in 100-ish days. So today we're going to, first of all, hope you did well with your basics review. Sorry, backing up. First of all, basics review and your basics test or quiz or whatever it was called. We're going to go ahead and move on. That may have taken you a day or two to do that, and that's fine because I think we're going to have extra time. But I don't really want to spend a bunch of time rehashing the stuff we talked about, and then I certainly don't want to just work through the test and have people, just watching the video and going, "Oh yeah, it's real easy." Plus, I doubt I had a super great time with the test either. So now we're going to move on to this section here, loops, working with loops and sequences. Today we're going to cover what are lists and how do they work, and what are some common methods used with lists. Then we'll go to tuples for the tomorrow. We'll do loops the day after that, and the day after that we will do these enumerate and zip functions and list comprehension. And then we'll probably just have one short thing about lambdas, and then we will move on to our workshop. So starting here today with what are lists and how do they work? Over the next few lessons, you're going to learn about lists, tuples, ranges, which are three basic sequence types in Python. The list data type is an ordered sequence of elements that can be comprised of strings, numbers, or even other lists. Lists are immutable and use zero-based indexing, meaning that the first element of the list is at index 0, just like strings. Here is the basic syntax for a list. So we give the list a name, cities, and then we assign the list to that name, and we use these square brackets. And here we've used 3 strings separated by commas in our list. To access the elements of the cities list, you can reference its index number in the sequence. Here's an example of accessing the first element of the cities list. So again, we have our cities list, and if we go cities bracket 0, it says what's the item at 0 position, and it's Los Angeles. Negative indexing is used to access elements starting from the end of the list instead of the beginning at index 0. To access the last element of any list, you can use -1 like this. So this works just like strings. So we have a cities list, and when we go -1, what's our -1 item? It's Tokyo. Another way to create a list is to use the list constructor. The list constructor is used to convert an iterable into a list like this. So we have the variable name developer is assigned to the string Jessica. And then we take the list function and we put in developer, and it will split that string into individual strings. An iterable is a special type of object that can be looped over one item at a time. You will learn more about loops in Python later on. To get the total number of elements in a list, you can use the len function like this. So numbers list as a list of integers 1 through 5. Len of numbers is 5. If you want to update a value at a particular index, you can do something like this. Programming languages. It's a list of programming languages here. Programming languages 0 equals JavaScript. And so we replaced Python with JavaScript. I think we should replace Java with JavaScript personally, but that's just my opinion. So printing programming languages, we now have JavaScript instead of Python in our list. Since lists are mutable, you can update any element in the list as long as you pass it an index value number, a valid index number. You can pass in an index, either positive or negative, that is out of bounds for the list. Or if you do pass in an index that's out of bounds for the list, then you will receive an index error. So our example here, programming languages, It's obviously only 4 items, and if we try to access the 10th item, we'll get an index error, list assignment index out of range. If you want to remove an element from a list, you could use the delete keyword like this. So we have a developer, Jane Doe's 23, Python developer, and we want to remove the number one item, not the first item, the one item from developer, which should get rid of the 23. So then we're left with Jane Doe Python developer. Sometimes it's helpful to check if an element is inside the list. To do that, you can use in keyword like this. So again, we have our programming languages list. You could say Rust in programming languages, and that will evaluate to true. JavaScript in programming languages evaluates to false. Sometimes it is common to have lists nested inside of other lists like this. So we have developer is assigned to the list that contains Alice, the string, the integer 25, the list of programming languages here, Python, Rust, and C++. In this example, we have one nested list containing 3 popular programming languages. To access the nested list, you will need to access it using index 2, since lists are 0-based index. So we have our developer, we access element 2, and that will actually be the programming language list. Then to access the second language from the nested list, you'll need to access it using index 1. So if you say developer 2, 1, so 2 returns a list, and then you get the 1th item from there, and that will return Rust. So 0, 1, 2, you have your list, and then 0, 1 returns Rust. Another common technique used within lists is unpacking values. Unpacking values from a list is a technique used to assign values from a list to new variables. Here's an example of unpacking developer list into new variables called name, age, and job. So we have our developer list with the string of the name, the integer of the age, and the string of job. So we can say name, comma, age, comma, job equals developer. And so that takes Alice and assigns it to name. Age is assigned to 34, and Rust is assigned to job, Rust developer. Here name has the value Alice, age has the value 34, and Java has the value of Rust developer. If you need to collect any remaining elements from a list, you can use the asterisk operator like this. So in this case, we have our developer list, name, and rest. And so what we'll get from that is we'll get the name is assigned, Alice is assigned a name, and then the remainder of the list, just still a list, is assigned to rest. So in this example, name will still have the value Alice, and rest is a list of 2 items, the number 34 and a string Rust developer. And the numbers of the variables on the left side of the assignment operator doesn't match the total number of the items in the list, you'll receive a value error. So the developer list has 3 items in it, and here we say we want name, age, job, and city. City doesn't look like it's in there, so there's 4 things we're looking for, and the list only has 3, so we get a value error. Not enough values to unpack. Expected 4, got 3, which makes sense. The last concept we'll look at is the slice operation. Similar to strings, you can access portions of a list by using the slice operator like this. So we have desserts, cake, cookies, ice cream, pie, and brownies. Desserts 1 through 4, so it's similar with strings. It's 0, so we get cookies, ice cream, and pie because the 4 is not inclusive, so you only really get 3 items here. In this example, the start index is 1 since that points to the second item on the list. Then we use the slice operator followed by the end index of 4, which includes everything up to but not including the item at the index. Another thing you can do with the slice operator is specify a step interval, which determines how much to increment between indices. Let's say you had a list of 4 numbers like this. A list of numbers, not 4 numbers. So we got 1 through 6, and you want to extract a list of just even numbers. You can use a slicing operator like this and say we want to start at the first item, which is 2. And then we want to go to the end of the list because there's nothing after the first colon. Second colon is the step. So we go 2, 4, and 6. The first even number is index 1. So that will be the start of the index. Since we want to go through the end of the list, we omit the end of the index, the end index. And lastly, we specify 2 for the optional step interval. So only increment by 2 instead of the default 1. Lists are useful and flexible data structures that you will use a lot in your Python programs. In the next lesson, you will learn about common methods that you can use with lists. So here's our questions. Which of the following is true about lists? They are 2-based indexed. No. They are 0-based indexed. Yes. They are only used inside of classes. Nope. They are rarely used in Python. That is not true at all. Which of the following is the correct way to access the second element in this list? So 0, 1, cities 1, yes, cities 2, no, cities 0, cities -1, nope. So it's cities 1. Which of the following is the correct way to access the second element from the end? So that'd be -1, -2. So we got -5, no, 2 would be 3. -5 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that'd be 2. And we're looking for 5 here. Number 0 would be 1. And so numbers -1. So let's check our answers. Awesome. What are some common methods used with lists? So in the previous lesson, we were introduced to the list data type and learned how to access elements from a list as well as a list slicing. In this lesson, we'll continue to learn about lists and some common methods associated with them like append, pop, and sort. The first method we'll look at is append method. This is used to add items to the end of the list. Here's an example of using the append method to add the number 6 to the list of numbers. So we have our numbers, and it's list 1 through 5. We say numbers dot append. So whenever you have a type, so this is a list, it has associated methods. And in this case, we're using the method append. And when you do that, you put dot append, and then you put your argument in. And so in that case, it appends 6 to this list, and our output is 1 through 6 now instead of 1 through 5. If you want to add one list at the end of another, you can also use the append method like this. So we got our numbers, and we got our even numbers, and we can say numbers, append, even numbers, and it gives us our original list, 1 through 5, and it adds a list to it as an item. So you don't get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10. You get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 list containing 6, 8, 10. So you can't look, for example, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can't try to access the 6th element. There is no 6th element. And notice how the entire even numbers list is nested inside the numbers list. But if you want to add all the individual items from the even numbers list at the end of the numbers list, then you can use the extend method. So the extend method is similar to append method, but with extend, you can add multiple elements from one list to another. Here's an example of adding the numbers 6, 8, and 10 from one list to the end of the numbers list. So here's what you would probably more likely want to do in this case. So you have your numbers list, your even numbers, numbers.extend even numbers, and now you get 6, 8, 10 instead of the list containing 6, 8, 10. So as you can see, the nested list is gone and it's just a list of numbers. To insert an element at a specific index in a list, you can use the insert method. This element This method accepts two arguments, the index where you wish to insert the new item and the item you want to insert. Here's an example. So we have numbers list and then numbers dot insert. And so we're going to, at the second item, so 0, 1, 2, we're actually going to add 2.25. So we get 1, 2, 2.25, 3, 4, 5. Following code would be we'll insert the number 2.5 at the index 2 in the numbers list. If you want to remove an element from a list, you can use remove method. The remove method takes the value of the element to remove as an argument. So you have a numbers list as 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 50. And then you want numbers remove 50. And so you notice here it only removes the first occurrence of 50. So you end up with 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. See, it only removes the first occurrence of an item, not all of them. So here we have our list now with 350s. I guess they're just showing us if you put 50 in, you're left with 250s. To remove an element at an index, at a specific index in the list, you can use pop method like this. So numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pop numbers.pop 1. Well, the ones item is 2, so it will return that item. So that's important. Like if you want to get that item and remove it from the list, you can use pop. If you don't specify an element for the pop method, then the last element is removed. So it would have removed the 5. There we go. 1, 2, 5, pop. The number 5 is returned. If you need an empty list, then you can use clear method like this. So you have a list, you numbers.clear, then you now have an empty list. The next method we will take a look at is the sort method. This method is used to sort the elements in place. Here is an example of sorting a random list of numbers in place. So we have these numbers. They're not in order, 19, 2, 35, 1, 67, and 41. We call numbers.sort. And when we print it out again, it will be in order 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 19, 35, 41, 67. In contrast to the sort method, there is a sorted function which works for any iterable and returns a new sorted list instead of modifying the original list. For example, sorted numbers equals sorted numbers. And so when you print numbers now, they're still unsorted. But the new sorted numbers list is now sorted. So as a reminder, an iterable is a special type of object that you can loop over, allowing you to access each item one at a time. You'll learn more about how loops work in Python in the future lesson. Both the sort and method and sorted functions accept optional key reverse parameter. You'll learn more about these optional parameters in future lesson when you learn about tuples. You'll also learn more about built-in functions like sorted in future lessons. The next method we will take a look at is the reverse method. This method will reverse a list of elements in place like this. So we have 6 through 1, and then we say numbers.reverse, and now numbers is sorted ascending 1 through 6. Now, it's just reversing them. It's not ordering them. So it's important. The last method we will look at is the index method. This is used to find the first index where an element can be found in the list. Here's an example of using index method to find the language Java and programming languages list. So we have programming languages list. Java is at the first thing here, first element. Programming languages .index. It tells us, hey, that's at index 1. If the element cannot be found, it will throw a value error. So if we go in here looking for JavaScript, we'll get a value error saying JavaScript is not in the list. There are a few more methods for Python list, but this initial list of methods is a good place to start. So let's look at our quiz here. Which of the following examples will correctly insert the number 2.5 at index 2 in the numbers list? So remember that the index is the first item, so that can't be correct. This could be correct. This could be correct, and that can't be correct. So, and insert into isn't one of the methods we talked about, so that narrows it down to this one. Which of the following methods will reverse a list of elements in place? Reverse, not reversing, not reversed list, not reversing list. It's kind of funny. Which of the following is not a list method? Pop, clear, splice, append. It would be splice. Let's check. Boom. All right. We were 2 tuples. We're going to call it for today. Tomorrow we'll start with tuples and do the 2 tuple related theory sections here. So that's all for today. Thanks for joining me. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Until next time, see ya.